Hi everyone, I'm going to be painting this Kinoko doll. It's a Kinoko mushroom, I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to leave a link in the description down below to the website where you can purchase her if anybody has an interest in that. I don't really know a whole lot about these dolls. I know they used to be super rare, but now they're not. I'm not sure if you have to buy them direct from Japan. I think you still do. I don't know. You'll have to do your own research because I don't know anything about this particular type of doll. I think this version is supposed to be the mushroom version, so the client wanted me to do little mushroom designs on the side of her face, so it's kind of really cute. And I thought while you were watching this video I might answer a few questions that came up in the last video that I did, which if you watched, thank you very much, and if you left lovely comments, again, thank you very much. It's so encouraging to read all the positive stuff. So one of the questions I got asked was, what kind of paint do you use? The type of acrylics that I usually use are golden acrylics, and I use the high flow acrylics that you can use in an airbrush. And that's just because it's easier to use something that's of a thinner consistency because I don't have to water it down as much. So the high flow acrylics are great because they have a very ink-like consistency. I do thin them down a little bit as well. I use a Liquitex Flow Aid. So she's more of an anime doll, which is a bit different from what I'm used to. Super cute though, but I'm used to doing, I guess, more realistic stuff, so it's always fun to do something that's a little bit out of the box for me. So this one's definitely a lot more stylized than what I would usually do. So here I am just sketching in the little mushroom design that's going to go on the sides of her face. So we decided to go with a little bunch of mushrooms and some grass strands in a sort of just, you know, stylistic, cartoony kind of look to just go with the anime kind of face that she's got. One of the questions I got asked was, do I make dolls? And no, not currently. I do not make the dolls, I just paint their faces on, which ties in with the other question I got asked, which is, where do I buy these dolls? And well, primarily most of the dolls come from Asia, usually Korea, and if you do a Google search for ball jointed dolls, you'll come up with a bunch of company sites. And it's really just a matter of personal preference, the kind of style of doll you like, price point, all that kind of stuff. I think it's too big of a topic to cover quickly in one video. So I'm going to leave a couple of links in the description down below, just as, you know, like a jumping in kind of point. So I'll leave a link to like Den of Angels and a helpful blog somewhere that talks more about what ball jointed dolls are and where you can buy them and that sort of thing. Another question I got asked, someone had been using gouache, but they were finding that even after they'd sealed the gouache and then they tried to gloss over the top of it, that the gouache was still running and it just sort of wasn't sealing properly, and they were wanting to know why that might be. And the only thing I can think of, because it doesn't happen to me, I've not had it happen so far to me, and I think that the reason that your paint is still running even after you've sealed it is probably because you've used too much and the gouache is too thick. So I think if the gouache is too thick, you're not going to get a particularly good seal over it, and so then that might be why it's continuing to be water soluble even after you've sealed it. So, I mean, my advice would be to thin down the gouache a whole lot more, and if you need more colour payoff and you don't want to thin down the paint, then I would just say switch to acrylics. The great thing about acrylics is they kind of dry like plastic. They are not really water soluble once they dry. Got another question about how to get intense colours with pastels. On the last head that I painted, she had a bright red lip, and I didn't use acrylics for that. I didn't paint that on, that was all pastel, because it tends to give a slightly different effect and you can do a little bit more shading. So the way that you get a really high build-up of colour is really just by layers. So you're going to do your first layer and it's going to look really terrible, and then you're going to hit it with the airbrush and you're going to seal it, and then you're going to add another layer of colour, and then you'll seal that, and then you'll add another layer of colour and you'll seal that, and you just keep adding layers until you get to the colour that you want. And really that's about all there is to it. And sometimes it can be like a lot of layers, so if you want to get to your endpoint colour a lot quicker, then you can definitely just paint it on an acrylics and then seal it and then do some contouring and shading, blushing on top of the acrylic. The majority of my art supplies I get from Dick Blick, and I will leave a link in the description box below. I mean, I get literally everything from Dick Blick. If I can just buy everything in one place, that's what I do, because, you know, shipping on stuff is expensive and I don't want to pay it. So just get it all from one place if I can. And Dick Blick's great. They have a really huge range of stuff. You can get just about everything you need there. Even the little paintbrushes that I use for eyebrows and eyelashes, which is just a little low Cornell liner brush. I get that from Dick Blick as well. This is the flow aid that I use, and I use this to thin down the paint. It gets me a better consistency. If you read the directions on the back of the flow aid, it does tell you to use a ratio. You're not supposed to use the product straight out of the bottle. You're supposed to use it 50-50. So what I do is I make that mixture up and then I put it in a handy little eyedropper bottle, and I just drop out however much I need when I want to use it. what Flow Aid does is it extends the drying time of your paint, so your paint won't dry quite as quickly as if you just use water, which if you're doing fine lines and details and your brush is really small is really important, because what I always find is that the paint dries on the brush before I can get finished doing what I'm doing. So the Flow Aid is great for being able to continue painting and do nice straight lines without having the paint gum up and start drying. Here's how she turned out. I think she came out pretty cute. It was a lot of fun to paint. It's always nice to do something a little bit different from what I usually do. And yeah, I can't wait till she gets home and her owner starts posting pictures so I can see what she looks like with a wig and all dressed up. So that's always one of the best parts, is getting to see them once they've gone home and their owners have put them back together again, you know, because I only get these just, you know, disembodied heads and with no eyes and stuff. So yeah, it's exciting to see them all put together. So hopefully, if you follow me on my Instagram, when she posts pictures, I will repost so everybody can see. So yeah. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Oh, and if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I will try to answer those in the next video I do. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.